Happy Tuesday. Thank you guys for joining me tonight. My name is Alyssa Thomas from Penguin and Fish. Get that on. Where we make cute embroidery kits for the beginning crafter. Thanks so much for joining me tonight. We are going to work on the Aurifil block of the month. This is the Sardinia block by Sarah Ashford. And we got started on this last night and we got this far on it. So thank you guys again for joining me. My name is Alyssa Thomas from Penguin and Fish, where we make cute embroidery kits for the beginning crafter. And I'm here every weeknight at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. That's 9:30 Eastern and 6:30 Pacific, and it's a time that we can relax and craft together. So let's get going on this foundation paper piecing. I'm loving this block so far. I'm loving the colors we picked out. We got a few other fun colors that are gonna go with it. This bright pink, it's foundation paper piecing. So we'll go through that process again tonight. So thanks again, guys. I'm gonna turn you around. There we are. Okay. So this is where we left off last night. We got parts A1, A2, and A3 done. And we also had a chance to draw out our pieces a little bit. I always like coloring in my template, my foundation, with colored pencils first, just so I know exactly what colors go where. And here are my fabrics. So this one that has all these letters, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, that's this fabric here that happens to have a bunch of little cute letters on it. This pink with the blotchy dots over it all, that represents this fabric. And our filled in pink is our bright pink here, and that's just for the heart here. And then we also have a gray bottom here, which is going to be our main color that we have throughout the quilt, and that is the gray. So we've been using this throughout our blocks so far, and that will be this bottom piece right here. So all right, so there we go, kind of looking like we got to start here. So we have colored on the actual back of the piece. So anywhere you see, you know, our guide, our, you know, B1, B2, B3, B4, this is the B section. What we're seeing here is actually the back. So when we flip it, that is the front. So that's something you always got to keep in mind. So see, that's the case here. This is the back. We flip it around and we have the front. So we always have to remember what goes there where when we're placing it, if something's right side up or wrong side up. So there we go, got a little bunny in there with some turtles. I think that turned out really well. Okay, so I'm gonna set these aside for now. This is our B section, our C section, and our D section. We are gonna go in order. So that means we are continuing with the A section, and we've done A1, A2, A3. We're going in order, so A4 is next, and I can tell it is that funny light colored fabric with the letters on it. So I will get that out and we'll lay this right here. Okay, so I have also printed out a second template piece, and we've been cutting it out. This has been our guide for cutting fabric. I never used to do this for foundation paper piecing, but ever since I started, I find it so helpful, and I just have to use my brain less, which is awesome. So, especially late at night here. So I'm gonna just trim this piece out, and we're gonna use this to help get the piece of fabric that we need. Oh, who would like to feel that? Oh, that pink sand in their toes. Yes, from the Sardinia block. They did have a good, if you go to aurabuzz.com, that is the Aurifil blog. And they have a beautiful picture of like the pink sands. And that is what this block is based on. The theme for this quilt is Colors of Italy. So Sardinia, and the pink is maize theme. All right, So one thing we want to look at is what part of our A4 piece, what line are we concerned with? Is it this line, you know, we got this line. We are always going to be concerned, or we're going to always be focused on the line that is in between our current piece. So this is our current piece, the A4 piece, and whatever happened before. So what's surrounding it? We got A2 and we got A6. So the one that happened before A4 would be A2. So this is that line in between those two pieces. So this is the line we're concerned about. A6, we're going to pretend it doesn't even exist. We are only thinking about this line right here. And that's important for our template piece as well, because this line right here, the matching line, that's the line that we want on a nice straight edge when we get our fabric here. So one thing we need to do is put our fabric face down. So the right side down, and that is because we're always working on the wrong side, and we need the correct side facing up eventually. So we need it down. And you know what? I think we're going to give this a little iron yet. But again, so this is the line right here that matches. So a good place for it would be right here. I am going to cut a piece of fabric that's as big as our template piece plus a generous seam allowance around it. The more the better, I think. So I always go like a ½ inch or so. But the edge that we are really concerned about, I want on a straight edge and about 1/4 inch. So I sometimes go like a hair over, but about 1/4 inch. So I'm going to actually cut this right like that. But let's just get a little press of this piece in here. I don't have to deal with pressing so much because all throughout the process of foundation paper piecing we'll be pressing, but that looked a little wrinkly. So all right, let's get this right on that edge, and I need to make sure I have my generous seam allowance all the way around the rest of it. And I'm just cutting with the scissors. We are just cutting a blob here. I don't have to measure, I don't have to do anything, I'm just cutting a blob, but I am making sure that that line is nice and straight. Okay, so I'm going to set this aside, and we are going to prep this piece, our piece here. So what we're actually prepping is our seam allowance. So again, we're looking at that line there, and if we peek underneath, that's a pretty blobby seam allowance yet, and so that's what we're going to take care of right now. So I'm still concerned about that line. I'm going to take a straight edge, and I am using a manila folder here. You could use a postcard, but this might be a little bit longer than a postcard. You want something that's going to go the entire length of the line. I'm using a just a manila folder basically. And I'm going to cover up what we did before, leaving our piece that we're currently working on exposed. I'm going to go right along the line here, and we are going to fold up this paper right along our straight edge. And you might have to pull out some stitches at the bottom. Those are some earlier stitches. There's a lot of stitches that cross over at this point here. That's going to be a little difficult for us later, but it'll be fine. All right, so that nice straight edge of that folder is now giving us a straight edge here and revealing our blobby seam allowance. We want to make that perfect now, and we can do that with just a normal ruler. We can just go 1/4 inch from our straight edge here and then cut with the rotary cutter. Or if you have the magic add 1/4 ruler, so there you can see add 1/4. This has a little ledge in it that is already the 1/4 inch. So I can just bop it right on. I don't have to think, I don't have to measure. I just kind of bop it on. And because you have the thickness of the paper here, it's just going to stop itself. And now I can use that to cut. So I'm going to get my cutting glove on. Don't want to cut my fingers off here. And we'll trim along that edge. And that leaves us with a super duper perfect 1/4 inch seam allowance. All right, throw these to the side. Oh, Charla. So Charla's saying, anyone else finding that large pieces are harder to piece than small pieces? I 100% agree. So these are rather large pieces, especially we're used to doing such small pieces with foundation paper piecing here. We've been working on projects that have very small foundation paper piecing. So when we have a large floppy piece like this, it kind of gets unruly. So one thing you might want to do, actually I'm going to do it right now just because it is floppy and we don't want our pieces moving around at all. I'm going to just grab a little bit of glue. This is what we used for our first piece. And you know what? I'm just going to dab this right on. You could use a pin, but anything to kind of keep things in place for a little while works well. So feel free to use your glue stick again. But I am in total agreement with you. I think the itty bitty tiny, tiny pieces actually make foundation paper piecing easier. You wouldn't think it because it seems like it's getting way more intricate and stuff, but really I do find that easier as well. All right, so here's our piece from earlier. So remember, it is that A4 piece that is matching up here. So now we have this nice straight edge that we put it on. I actually don't need that paper piece anymore. We are going to actually take those two edges, the one that we just cut and this nice edge here, and we are going to put them right sides together. So just like so. I'm just noticing now, this is actually like a weird folded over edge. I'm just going to leave it though, I think. I thought this was just like a nice cut edge. I should have probably trimmed it, but it's actually kind of folded over kind of funny. You know what? I might actually just trim it right now. I just have to remember that this is the edge. See, look, it's got this weird folded over thing. So without taking like any edge off of there, I'm going to just straighten this out. I probably should have done this before I cut it. It's always nice to make sure you got a good straight edge on that one edge that you know has to be straight. So there we are. Let's try that again. So it always helps me to go the wrong sides again. There we go. So now we put those right sides of the edges together. And triangles can be tricky, so I always like testing it. And I'm going to test the position of it by pretend sewing. So I'm going to flip this around. And I'm going to pretend sew along that line by just putting a couple pins along that line. And it doesn't hurt to test. This is way better than getting your positioning of your piece wrong. Like if your piece is too far up or too far down, it might actually miss the piece when you fold it back. Like you might actually miss an edge if you don't place it right. And it's way, way harder to take foundation paper piecing apart after you've already sewn it, because the paper's going to tear and you're going to have to tape it all back together again. And that is not fun at all. Okay, so let's flip it. So we pretend sewed it with the pins. I'm going to pretend press it. So I'm just kind of folding it against those pins. Oh, it's looking cute. So let's flip it around again. So what I'm looking for is, did I cover my A4 piece plus still have the generous seam allowance around it, at least 1/4 inch, preferably more. And it looks like we definitely are totally fine. We got plenty. That's why I like having just an extra big blob, because I'm more lucky at this stage that I don't have to move the pins. But all right, now we're ready to sew. So I'm going to sew into the seam allowance, all the way from the seam allowance exactly on this line and into the seam allowance down here. And that is the sewing process, really. All right, to the machine. I have my stitch length a little bit smaller than usual, and you can kind of see, let me show you some of the stitches from last night. Now these are awfully small. I kind of did those very, very small. Maybe you can, oh no, you can't see on this side. But yeah, this is actually a bit smaller than I usually go. So itty bitty stitches. And the reason for that is we are going to be tearing this paper out later. So the more little perforations you can make in there, the better. It's just going to tear so much easier later. All right, we're going to go right on that line. All right, so I'm going to back tack it. That just means I'm going to sew backwards in reverse for a couple stitches after going forward. That kind of ties a knot almost. All right, and then now we're going to go right along that line. All right, we can take that pin out. Yeah, feel free to keep the pins in that you use to test sew with, especially because we are using these big floppy pieces. Sometimes when you're working with itty bitty pieces, you don't need all the pins, but this is a case that we're gonna want them. All right, into the seam allowance. Let's do the little backward stitching, forward again, and there we go. All right, and I'm going to snip this right away, and we're going to snip these ends right away too so they don't get in our way, so we don't have little strings everywhere. Okay, we are off to the pressing mat. It's a fun little dance of prep, sew, press. Prep, sew, press. Okay, so here is our stitches. You can see we got nice small stitches there. Perfect 1/4 inch seam allowance because we're sewing right on that line. All right, you're always going to want to press with your colored side down, just because you don't want this to get onto your sewing machine or on your iron. All right, so let's press this with our fingers first, and then we're going to extend it down the edge too, because we haven't sewn there, so it's just going to want to go everywhere. That's why we want to finger press it into place. And then we can grab the iron and give it a nice press. And every new piece you put on forms the last piece that you did, the piece next to it. So it may look crazy and blobby, but all of a sudden it starts forming these super crisp, perfect shapes. Like look at this, how nice this looks compared to this, which is still kind of loose and blobby, but this is just sharp. So that's awesome. So that's it, you guys. That is the basics of foundation paper piecing. If you watched last night, there is the first piece that we do. There is a little bit different thing that we do there, but after the first piece, every other piece is the same, and that's the process right there. So we are done with A4. That's A4, so A5 would be next, and we are right over here. So we just need to do the same process for that. And you know what? I think I'm going to start out by adding that little dab of glue up top here so we can, you know, manage this floppy piece a little bit better. Ooh, that's a little thick there, but all right. There we are. I'm just using a water-soluble like glue stick. It's like an Elmer's glue stick, basically. Okay, first up, let's find our A5 template piece, that extra sheet that we printed out. I'm just going to trim that piece out. Now, this doesn't have to be cut perfectly. It's just to help us, guide us with the shape that we're going to cut out of our fabric. What kind of glue? Oh, yeah, Tracy, it's just, I've had this glue stick probably for a decade. Like literally, I've probably had this glue stick for a decade. It's ridiculous. I think it might even be older than that. I think it's some sort of weird acid-free glue stick. I really have no idea why I have this or where it came from, but it's still working. But you can just use a normal Elmer's glue stick, just a little dab of glue. You can even use a pin. That's totally fine too. It is just a plain old, you know, water, you know, just like a non-toxic glue stick, basically. All right, here is our A5 piece. And again, we're working on the edge that's between our current piece and whatever happened before. And in this case, it's A3. This is A7. We're going to ignore that. A3 is here. So this is that line that we're concerned with. This is that line that matches up here. So this is the edge. Oh, and you can even, I did this last night. Let's see. You can even point to that edge just to make it extra easy for you when you're cutting your fabric. Because once you start flipping things around, it can get confusing really quickly. So this is the edge that needs to have the nice straight edge with that 1/4 inch seam allowance. So let's find our fabric again. We are using that alphabet fabric still. So here we are. Plop that to the side for now. Let's see, where can we get a good cut out of here? You know, I might actually go right up here, but this edge needs to be, like, it feels like it fits right here in my scraps, but this is not a nice straight edge, is it? And that's the edge that we need to have straight. So all I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna prep this edge a little bit for us. Gosh, I wonder if it fits in there. I think this is the way to go. So I'm gonna just trim this so we do have our nice edge. So you don't have to do this for all the other edges. We're just only concerned about that one straight edge. There we are. Okay. Fuzzles out of here. Okay, so now we have our good straight edge that we can match with this one. So we want to be about 1/4 inch from that edge, and then we want that generous seam allowance around the rest, including the little corners here. So I'm going to just trim around, and this is the part that can be blobby. Oh, one thing to remember at this point is that we're putting our fabric with the right side, the good side, facing down. Because remember, whenever we're looking at our template piece, when we can read the writing on there or see our colors, that's the wrong side of the fabric, so wrong side of the piece. So our fabric has to match. Whenever this is face up, the wrong side of the fabric has to be face up. Because when we flip it, then we're good to go. So our template is face up, so our wrong side has to be face up. But there we go. We got that piece good to go. So I'm going to set that aside for a moment while we get this perfect seam allowance. And how we do that again is we get our postcard, and in my case I'm using that file folder. And I'm going to cover up whatever you did before. We want our piece that we're working on now exposed. So we want to see that piece. So A5. All right, and then fold it on that edge. And again, you're going to have to release some stitches here. Just tear it. That's fine. You won't always have that problem. It's just where another seam crosses over what you're working on. There we go. And I'm going to grab my add a quarter ruler because I love it. And we're going to just bop it on there. Oh, better get my cutting glove. Again this week, you guys, I saw someone go to the emergency room because they cut through their finger with a rotary cutter. So get in the habit, you guys, of only, so the safety is on and off, or now it's the safety's on, now it's off. Get in the habit of never opening it until you're ready to cut, and then close it immediately before setting it down. I see so many people that just leave it open like this. That is an exposed razor blade right there. So that's super dangerous. Keep it closed like that. And I'm trying to get into the habit of wearing a cutting glove as well. This is just kind of like a, like a safety glove with some rubber on it, which is great to hold rulers and stuff. But in theory, if I cut myself, it won't go through here unless I like stab myself. But anyway, I am trying to get in the habit of wearing that, even though it is awkward wearing a glove, having to put it on and off and stuff. But man, Those are scary pictures of people going to the emergency room for cutting through their finger. All right, let's move this out of the way. And actually, we can just match those edges right now if we want, but let's take a look at it again. It's always helpful to look. So here's our piece, and that was matching up right here. Okay, so that's our good edge. We don't need our template piece anymore. So these edges we're going to fold so they're right sides together. There we go, like so. And I'm going to just kind of shimmy it again where I kind of think it should go. I'm guessing it should go about right there. But we're going to do our test again. So let's flip that over. Oh, it looks like maybe I got it a little high up there, but we'll see. Let's pretend so. With our little pins. Man, I think it was really helpful to glue this piece down just because it's not flopping around at all, which is amazing. Okay. We pretend pressed, and now we're looking to make sure that we have our generous seam allowance all the way around, and obviously right here we have tons. Along this edge, oh, we still got plenty. We are good to go. So let's flip it back. There we go. And now we're gonna sew along this edge. I think we'll start from up here. So it's getting pretty thick here. There's actually quite a number of seams that come right in the middle here. That can sometimes be a little difficult with paper piecing because we're actually gonna end up with so much bulk there. So it might be a little tricky sewing this to the next piece, but we're gonna do our best. I'm sewing it to where the heart goes. Right there. Alrighty, let's get set up to sew here. I'm just gonna read through your comments quick. Oh yeah, exactly, Anna. You do not want to cut off your finger. Oh, Rebecca, I'm so happy that this is helping. Alrighty. We are sewing along this edge here, and I was going to start from the bottom. I think there's just more paper sitting on the machine here, so it's a bit easier. Although my pins are kind of facing the wrong way, so that might be a little difficult. I'm actually going to take that pin out right now. And since there's a seam allowance, I am going to sew in the seam allowance. You don't always do that with foundation paper piecing, but when a line hits a seam allowance, that is when I do want to go in that seam allowance. All right, and right down that line. Pieces are still floppy, so I am trying to make sure that my pieces are matched up. The other a little goofy thing, especially with big pieces, is that with foundation paper piecing, you are oftentimes cutting and sewing on the bias. So what that means is you're not cutting perfectly with the grain of fabric, so perfectly with where like the threads that make up the fabric, they're either vertical or horizontal. If you cut not on one of those lines, like if you cut diagonally, that's called the bias. And those edges that are cut diagonally are really stretchy. So stretchier than if you didn't cut on a diagonal. So when we're doing triangles like this, we often have lots of stretchy edges. And I can kind of see here, look, I have a pretty big, my seam allowance is a little bit bigger here. I suspect I've stretched it a little bit because this is right on the diagonal. It is a bit stretchy. But again, that's kind of one of the benefits of foundation paper piecing. We are sewing onto this paper foundation, which is helping with the stretch. Everything is kind of staying in place. We get to just use the lines as a guide. We don't have to worry about it stretching so much as we sew. Like without that foundation. Oh, cute. Cute, 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 cute. I like this fabric. I like these fabric combos. I think this is fun. I really like how this is turning out. the pattern called for a light pink, a medium pink, and a dark pink, and I think even though the background of this is kind of cream, it does have like a pink grid, and I think that makes it read pinkish. And there we go. We our piece formed this other piece here. Which side did we just do? This side, right? I'm confusing myself. A4, no, A5. Yeah, we did this piece. So now this is perfectly formed. All right, you guys, that's that piece. We got two more, A6 and A7. So A6 is next. So we've switched fabrics now. This is that kind of blotchy medium pink fabric, which is gorgeous. All right. So let's find. Actually, let's do this first. We can do it in this order. Let's put that dab of glue on. I think that's really working well, so I'm going to continue doing that. Just putting on the paper right at the kind of corner there. Try not to get too much. I just need a little bit to baste it or temporarily hold it in place there. So let's do this cutting first, and then we will get our other piece. So we're going to get our edge super nice first. So we're covering up everything that happened before. Ooh, we got a lot of stuff happening down here. We'll see how this goes. Oh, and I don't have, you know what? I should probably have a piece of tape there. Let's get one. There we go. I got my tape from last night. We had to tape together two different pieces because this is a large block and the printer didn't print that large. All right, so again, I'm just pulling that apart. It's okay that the paper is getting weird. That's totally fine. All right. Get the add a quarter ruler out, get our glove out, and get our rotary cutter. It's so bulky here that my add a quarter ruler doesn't want to just bump up. It's too high on that edge, so I gotta kind of place it a little bit better. This might be tough. So some people actually take a mallet and hammer down edges like this when they get totally thick, because there's so much, I mean, there's paper in here, there's every seam that we've done, because it all comes to a point. So this is a tough little spot right there that I think might give us a little trouble later, but we'll see how it goes. We'll wait till that time. All right, we can fold that back, and we got our good seam allowance now. So I'm switching up the order. We'll set that aside now. And now we'll deal with the paper. Let's get that template first. Oh, here we go. There's our A6 piece. Ooh, this is kind of floppy, but I do have a piece of tape there. Again, this just needs to be roughed in garbage. Okay, so it's this edge here, and this is our only edge left, so this is the edge that needs... that connects with the older piece, the edge that needs to be our nice, perfectly straight 1/4 inch edge piece. So let's see, where are we at with this? Oh, we got one crazy blob there. Ooh, can we fit up here? That'd be cool. Oh, well, I suppose we can. So the edge that was matching, this is helpful. I find this helpful. I'm going to just point to the edge that's matching, because again, once you start turning these around, it can get confusing. So this is the edge. I don't think this is quite... Oh, if we go like right here, we would have our generous seam allowance, but that's kind of a lot of waste there maybe. I don't know, it's all kind of a lot of waste at this point, isn't it? Maybe we just use this edge here. Why don't we just go there? All right, let's do that. So this edge is pretty straight already, so I'm not going to really bother with it, although I kind of could. We had that problem with the last one, but I think we're actually fine there. So this is the edge with the arrow that I want, about 1/4 inch, and then the rest we're going to cut our blob again, our generous seam allowance. Ooh, I'm maybe getting a little tighter in there than I wanted, a little less generous of a seam allowance. All right. You know what? And I think I might just trim those fuzzles off carefully. There we go. Out of here. Okay, let's match up our edges. So we already cut our edge here. So that's the edge we want to match. Let's get those right sides together. I think about there's probably where it needs to be. All right, let's flip it back and do our test. Oh yes, so Paula, so a lot of people, this is kind of funny, but Paula's saying that the image is better on YouTube, but she misses how the chat works in Facebook. I know some people are actually watching on YouTube, but they have Facebook open too and are chatting there. The nice thing about YouTube is you can get up on the TV too, but I think some people have figured out how to do that on Facebook too. All right, so we have plenty of edge all the way around, so our test worked. Remember, we actually have that extra 1/4 of an inch here, so we have a 1/4 of an inch plus all this extra, so we're fine. I don't think we need to shift anything. Let's fold our piece back and now sew on that edge. I think we'll start here. You can start on either end of the line. I just do whichever one feels more comfortable, I suppose. And I think at this point, it's so bulky down here that I'm gonna end there when I can. And I think I gotta take this pin out again. Have it facing the wrong way. Get under there. All right, so starting at the seam allowance again. I'm gonna go backwards a few stitches. Lock it in place, and now we're ready to just go down that line again. Ooh, let's get that pin out of the way. Make sure we're still lined up. Okay, and through the seam allowance. It's backwards and forwards. Okay. Oh, right here. Get those extra threads. All right, let's press. It's nice, I just have this removable little wool mat that I can just move where I want. All right, I'm just gonna page through your comments again. All right. Oh, thanks for posting that link, Barbara. All right. Ooh, we've gone all the way over the edge of our paper now. That's awesome. Okay, let's press. All right. Looking cute. And that's that piece. So we're definitely getting this kind of sunbeam thing happening, this heart beam thing. There we go. We're working on that top section right there. Looking cute. All right, one more to go on the A piece, and then we are done with the whole A piece, and we can move on to the B piece. Okay, A7, that's all we have left. Let's start by trimming this again. We have it here, so let's just do it. I think I am going to add that glue again. I think that's my new favorite thing with these big floppy pieces. Again, if you're doing small pieces and, you know, like the heart that we'll do later, I think that heart, I don't think I'm gonna have to add any extra little glue blobs like this, but it is handy, handy with these big floppy pieces. Did foundation paper piecing start with drawing lines on the fabric? We did not draw any lines on the fabric. We printed it out on just printer paper, and that's where we got all our lines. So I'm not actually drawing anything. I am just cutting those blobs out like what we're going to do in a moment here. Let's prep this edge though first. So much stuff happening there. Gonna be able to tear it away from all those stitches. Ay, ay, ay. Okay, let's get back on the line there. You will not run into this problem all the time. It is just because all of our fabrics are coming to a point. Okay, find my glove. Oops. Alrighty. All right, so our seam allowance, our pretty seam allowance is ready. Let's prep our, we need this out, yeah, let's prep our last, get our last template piece. And again, this template piece is just a copy of this. It's the same exact thing. We just colored one in and left one as is. Holy cow, you guys. It got so humid, or like all of a sudden it's been so chilly and now it's hot and humid. We've had no like in between. I am just sweating right now. I suppose I could take this sweatshirt off. Let's do that. All right. So let's see. All right, that's the edge that we're trying to match up. Let's just put an arrow there. Oh, you did half of the heart yesterday. Awesome, Jennifer. Okay. Right side down. Let's find a good spot to cut this last piece out. I'm trying to, you know, preserve my fabric a little bit, but with foundation paper piecing, it can get kind of weird. Trying to find that nice straight edge. Gosh, I almost think I could go right here, couldn't I? Oh, I think I'm going to go right there. We're going to get some use out of this awkward space here. But again, I need to turn this into a straighter edge because this was a blob we cut. And I don't want to get too far into here because I want that generous 1/4 of an inch here and here, although we're still looking pretty okay there. I think maybe we will go like right there. So I'm going to get my ruler out and try to cut that edge nicely. So we have our true kind of straight edge. Oh no, Sylvia says mosquitoes are back. Ah, all right, we have not had those yet. Oh gosh, maybe they are out there. Maybe I've just avoided them. But yeah, it's been that beautiful part of spring where you can feel the summer coming on and like the lilacs are blooming. Everything smells amazing. And it's before the bugs come. It's before the mosquitoes. So we're in that like mysterious, beautiful, short-lasting little springtime here. All right, let's get a generous seam allowance there, and then we'll just keep it up on all these other sides. Our blob. You can use a rotary cutter to do this, and you can get more exact than I am, but why? It's so easy to cut the blobs, and it's satisfying. I think it's satisfying cutting blobs and having them turn out to be absolutely perfect with perfect seam allowances. There's something satisfying about that. All right, this piece goes right there. So those are the edges we need to match. Let's, again, we're kind of guessing at where it should go. I'm guessing something like that. We will test to make sure. All right. Ooh, ticks are really bad this year. Ugh, that's scary. Blech. Those freak me out. Oh, you could absolutely fussy cut with this technique. So Gretchen's asking if you could fussy cut when you're doing foundation paper piecing, and it's probably the easiest way to fussy cut is with foundation paper piecing. And what Gretchen's meaning with that is to fussy cut, you're actually making a clear decision on exactly what motif you want in your shape. So, for example, if we really, really wanted, you know, the heart, for example, to be where all of this like bright motif is, we can actually place our design right on that piece and then cut out our design. I mean, you do leave a lot of extra around, but that's kind of the point of fussy cutting. You get exactly what you want as a design in here, if you want. So I'm just going random, but if there was like a flower, like a special flower I wanted here, or a little like, I don't know, some other shape, I could make a clear decision that that's what I want in those shapes. All right, I'm going to pretend so. Oh, I can tell already that we are over all the edges, so I think we're fine. Yep, over the edge. We're good. All right, let's sew. I think, I guess we'll sew from the edge on this one. I'm used to having the seam allowance on my right, so we'll just keep kind of doing that, I suppose. Okay, just trying to make sure my ends are lined up. I probably could use a couple more pins in here, but I think we'll be okay. So I'm just extending this line into the seam allowance. Let's scooch this out of the way. All right, let's go backwards a stitch or two and forward again. I think stitch length is a little short. Okay, match up these edges. Ooh, gotta take this out before I get too far. There we go. I love that you can just stitch on the edge too. It's like coloring in a coloring book. You don't have to worry about it. You just don't go out that edge. Stay in the lines. Okay, get those other bits. And we have sewn our last seam on the A piece here. So let's give that a press, and then I'm gonna trim it out already, because I always find it impressive on how much cleaner and more finished it looks just from doing our final trim. All right, I'm really gonna try and get that center area. All right, it's looking pretty good. So there we are. That's the top of our piece here. Let's do that final trim. So this is a little bit different than what we've done so far, but it's similar. So we're still concerned with a line. We're concerned with the inner line here. So some actually foundation paper piecing designs will not even give you that extra 1/4 inch seam allowance. It's just assumed that you're going to add it. We have that visual guide, but we're actually going to use this inner line here, which is really the outside of our piece. We're going to use that as our 1/4 inch guide. So I'm going to ignore that this extra paper is there, and I'm going to just measure my 1/4 inch on that nice long line. And I'll probably actually trim away paper, little paper doing this. That's fine. We are concerned with that line on the inside. That's our perfect line. Oh, see, there goes some paper. That's fine. Okay, let's do this other long edge while we're at it. Ooh, we're gonna be cutting through all of those seams again. That'll be fun. All right, again, I'm using that 1/4 inch seam allowance, or that 1/4 inch on the ruler to go a 1/4 inch from that inner line. kind of fun to shush away the fabric. All right, let's get these edges. Same thing. Okay, so let's take a look at this. It's gonna be so clean and pretty. Oh, look how finished it looks. I'm telling you, that surprises me every single time. It just looks so fancy all of a sudden, doesn't it? All right, so here's where we got so far. I think we're gonna stop there for the night because then tomorrow we can start fresh from the beginning with a new piece. But dang, I'm really thinking that's cute. So here are our other pieces. We have the heart next, so that's the B piece and the C piece. Those will go there. Again, just remember, it's actually going to go like this, but since this is kind of the same mirrored image on each side, we can kind of get a sense of what it's going to look like with this heart. And then this guy will go down there. We'll fill it in. Oops, we'll fill it in with a little pink on the inside here, and we got ourselves a foundation paper piece block. So tomorrow's Wednesday. I'm hoping we can get, gosh, close to these done. You know, I thought we would get this done a lot faster, but I think we're going to actually go through Friday. So that's good. This will be perfect. So all right. We got the A piece completely done. I am going to leave this paper in for right now. I may actually try and pick out some of these pieces because look how thick we are there. Before we sew this all together, I might just kind of grab some of that, but we can get that out later too. I'm not going to worry too much about it. But yeah, I love how clean and pretty this is looking. So all right, you guys, we will continue with the heart. Tomorrow. That probably means I need to read how big these pieces are because I think those are just squares we cut out. So, all right, you guys, I'm going to flip you around. All right, hello again. So let me show you what this looks like next to a human, just because you can get the size of it. So it is pretty large. This is a big foundation paper piece, at least for me. I'm used to doing, you know, smaller itty bitty pieces like this, but I think it's looking awfully sweet. Those pinks together are just so cute. So I'm really happy with how this is going. I love these fabrics. I think this is just so fun. Foundation paper piecing is surprisingly relaxing because you don't have to measure. You don't even have to think about a seam allowance when you're sewing. You just follow the line. We've colored it all out, so we don't have to think about that either. It's just once you get going, you can just kind of stop thinking and just go through the system like the prep, sew, press, prep, sew, press, just over and over again. It's fun. It gets relaxing. So thanks again, you guys. Again, this week is the last week to order the Flower Garden Embroidery of the Month. So be sure to check that out on the website. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you guys again for joining me. Good night.